You wouldn't steal a wallet, you wouldn't steal a handbag, you wouldn't steal a car, and you wouldn't steal a house. What? Before we start, no, I don't condone internet piracy. It's illegal. You shouldn't do it.
Don't do it!
Piracy had an insane impact on the digital world, which in turn had an insane impact on the physical world. But for years now, it almost seemed as if piracy is on the back foot and would be eradicated altogether. But how true is that? Is piracy really that bad, and is it really dying? We'll have to go back a bit in time. You see, if you're born in the early to mid 90s, two things are certain. One, you're almost a fossil by now, and two, you probably remember Napster. And Napster is where it all began. The age of information was taken off with the birth of the internet, which actually was kinda invented in 1969 by the US Department of Defense, yada 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 yada. But it eventually developed into the World Wide Web we know today in the late 80s and early 90s. And the World Wide Web was the first time the public got their hands on this vast network that connected all corners of the globe into one accessible format. At first it was just rigid email, but then later on messenger services like MSN and AOL popped up. Back then the internet was fairly limited in its capabilities. Hell, like the average internet speed in 1995 was somewhere between 29 kilobits per second to 56 kilobits per second. While nowadays, a lot of countries with a more developed digital infrastructure sit around a few hundred megabits per second. And having a phone call and browsing the internet simultaneously was just something you couldn't do, as they both use the same network landlines. Pop quiz. What is this sound? A. The meme sound effect for having a brain fart. Or B. The sound of dial-up internet. Take your time, pick an answer. The answer is B. If you guess correctly, congratulations!
You're old.
Your prize will be
Hemorrhoids.
And if you answered A, you're now legally obliged to hit the subscribe button because you clearly need some fucking education. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, people were getting in touch with each other in ways that were previously unthinkable, and they wanted to share more than just text, and that's where Napster entered the ring. Napster was created in 1999 by Sean Fanning and Sean Parker. Same name, different spelling. It was the very first peer-to-peer file sharing service that hit this new global network and focused on MP3 file sharing. Peer-to-peer means that it allowed its users to download files from another person's computer and vice versa. No, not just anything, but rather the things you put up there yourself. So people would be able to share their own legally acquired songs on Napster with other people from all over the globe. Thus, everyone with a home computer was able to amass a vast library of music for free. And that's the problem. You see, Sean and Sean got in a bit of a kerfuffle with Metallica. James Hetfield and his gang discovered that one of their unfinished demos called I Disappear had leaked on a local radio station. And on further investigation, they traced the leak back to Napster, which in turn made them aware of the vast extent to which their discography, which in turn made them aware of the vast extent to which their discography was being shared without their permission, and this prompted the band to file a lawsuit. Now, a lot of artists like Dr. Dre and record labels and big associations joined this legal hoopla. And in short, it didn't end well for Napster. Sean and Sean got a little bit of It eventually got taken down after a long drawn out lawsuit. They settled with Metallica and had to withdraw all copyrighted music from their service, but then rebooted again in another form, but then died again, and then the name got bought up and then used by another company, and it still kinda lives today. But in case you haven't noticed, I'm kinda oversimplifying this specific bit, but it doesn't really matter. Napster, as we knew it, was dead. So Napster died, but its ideas and the principle of peer-to-peer file sharing didn't. The vacuum it left in the online space was almost immediately filled with numerous alternatives, like Kazaa, LimeWire, and eDonkey. They all did the same things that Napster did, and probably even more, because there was also kind of a high likelihood you would infect your PC with digital cancer while you were downloading Smurf House Volume 6. And these services were decentralized and often very obscure in regards how they were run and how their service ran. Combine that with legislation not quite being able to keep up with all this fast-paced changes in the online community, and it made it really hard to crack down on. It wasn't lawmaking and that kind of stuff that made LimeWire, Kazaa, and eDonkey fade into Bolivia.
I don't know, man. I might get fade into Bolivian.
You see, internet pirates are quite resourceful, and the way they shared their files just evolved. Enter the BitTorrent protocol. This new protocol revolutionized internet piracy. It allowed its users to download and upload files in small parts to and from multiple peers. This increased the download speeds, the download sizes, and the download stability, and it reduced the reliance on centralized servers, which made it even harder to crack down on by authorities. A torrent file would work on any torrent client. It didn't matter if you were using BitTorrent, uTorrent, or Azurius. The sharing and downloading was kinda cross-platform, for lack of a better description, as long as you were just using the same torrent file. And this new style of downloading went hand in hand with another big player we all know, the Pirate Bay. The Pirate Bay was founded in 2003 by a group of Swedish anti-copyright activists. The Pirate Bay became one of the most popular websites for sharing and downloading torrents, and that sparked an influx of a lot more of these types of websites, like for example Kick-Ass Torrent and the recently deceased RARBG. And combine that all with the increasing internet speeds all over the world. Broadband became the standard around this time, as well as the adoption of the DVD player in most homes. And this all culminated into the pirates having a new target: Hollywood. I mean, we all knew that one kid in school that had this weird uncle or cousin that would sell DVDs for just a couple of shekels instead of like 15 to 20 bucks. Piracy seemed unstoppable, especially with the continuously increasing capacity of home computers, which made it even more accessible for end users to just directly download these larger files, cutting out the weird uncles from the equation. But then around the 2010s, government and copyright holders started implementing stricter anti-piracy measures to combat this digital nuisance. Organizations like the Motion Picture Association of America and the Recording Industry Association of America actively pursued legal actions against individuals and websites involved in piracy. And this battle would rage on for years. But as soon as one of these sites or hosts got taken down, another 3 would appear within a week. It was like chopping off the head of a hydra. There seemed to be no end to it, because people just weren't accepting it anymore to buy a single movie or a single album or a single song for that matter for full price. People just had it. There was no turning back. Or was there? Let's take a little step back, a few years back to 1997, in Scotts Valley, California, since it was then and there when a new company was founded by Mark Randolph and Reed Hastings. You see, Reed Hastings came up with the idea to start a business after he had rented the Apollo 13 movie and on return had to pay a late fee of $40. And this made him wonder if that fee really was that fair. It wasn't. And if there wasn't a better way possible of renting out movies. There was. Enter Netflix. Their business model would be to rent out movies, but not in the typical blockbuster fashion, but rather in a subscription-based model. You pay a set fee of around $16 a month and you can rent 4 DVDs and keep them for as long as you like. The only catch there being that if you wanted to watch the 5th movie, you'd have to return one of the previous 4, thus eliminating late fees altogether. Now, Netflix's model was a huge success, and as the company grew, it also kept up with the technological advancements because they digitized their entire library and hosted it online to watch from home since 2007, making it possible for their paying customers to watch any movie at any time. No 4 DVD limit, no late fee, just a subscription fee. If you wanted, you could watch 10 movies a day and you wouldn't need to pay a cent more than the previous months. Watching movies legally had never been this convenient and this cheap before. And while Netflix was digitizing the movie industry, there was a little company called Spotify coming up in around the same time in 2006 from Stockholm, Sweden. Again, Sweden. But yeah, in the years to come, Spotify transformed the music industry in a similar fashion as Netflix had done, making music free to listen to legally without needing physical copies, but with ads in between songs, and you had to deal with limited streams per song and limited controls. Or you could pay a set monthly fee and listen to their entire library as much as you want without any ads or limitations whatsoever. Again, making things cheaper and easier than they've ever been before. And this resulted not only in a huge success for these specific companies, but also for the battle against piracy. A large part of these pirates would gladly pay $25 a month in order to watch any movie or listen to any song in better quality and without the risk that pirated media brought with it. And although it being a few years down the road, even the gaming industry followed suit with the likes of Xbox Game Pass, EA Access and Ubisoft Plus. So eventually this insane growth of the pirate scene had come to a seeming standstill. And in some parts of the world it even saw a decline. With fair pricing, superior quality and better safety precautions, Netflix and Spotify had dealt a bigger blow to illegal media than any government or any institution had ever done before. The key to ending piracy seemed simple. You just eliminated the need for it to exist. So, case closed, right? Piracy is dead. Or is it? You see, Netflix and Spotify's success had made them giants in their own rights, but this wouldn't steer them away from hefty competition of more established companies in the industry. And especially Netflix had a tough time in this regard. Everybody saw that the video-on-demand model was the future and everybody wanted in on it. More and more competitors would start their own streaming services, pulling their content away from Netflix to put it onto their own platforms, thus fragmenting this previously all-encompassing solution. Suddenly, people had to choose which service to subscribe to and which one to forgo, seeing that for most people it just wasn't viable to subscribe to them all, seeing that there were now so many. So people cut their losses and would choose the platform with the most series they'd watch and keep that and just let the rest go. But then the pandemic struck. We all know it, we've all lived through it. Just get this out of my memory. So most people would be stuck at home for a big part of what would be more than a 2-year period. And sitting at home all day is kinda boring. And while this resulted in a big boost for streaming services all around the world, this would also be the catalyst for a new wave of pirates. You see, while a lot of people that were stuck at home would just add another subscription to their monthly expenses, there was also quite a big chunk of people that just couldn't or wouldn't pay the extra cost in order to keep up with their media consumption, just in order to watch that one specific show or that one specific movie a service offered, while the rest of the catalog didn't really appeal to them. A prime example of this is Game of Thrones, which has been the most pirated TV show from 2014 to 2022. For a lot of Game of Thrones fans, this show was the only interesting thing that HBO had to offer, and for some others it just wasn't available in their region. So people got back to torrenting stuff and downloading stuff from major file hosts. But along the way, people started to shift away from torrenting because these sites were just kept taking down, ISPs just kept slashing the connection to them, and government regulations got stricter and were better adapted to this new digital age. So the majority of pirated content nowadays isn't torrents anymore or peer-to-peer sharing, it's streaming. The amount of illegal streaming sites with high quality product is enormous nowadays. And although most countries now have a more structured legal system regarding piracy, it still proves very hard to actually counter all these sites, since with the aging of the internet, the awareness of internet security has also risen, not just on the side of the end user, which all use VPNs and stuff nowadays, but also on the side of these hosts. They either host through various proxies and that kind of stuff, or they host from regions that are basically untouchable for these organizations. And this all culminated in a new piracy boom, which started around the pandemic and is still having massive momentum, seeing that in just the first 8 months of 2022 we saw an increase of 20% in the visits to these pirate sites, majority of which were streaming sites. So yeah, it's safe to say that the pirates keep adapting and probably aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And whether that's a good or a bad thing, that is up to you to decide. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think that internet piracy is harmful for the entirety of the media enterprises, or do you think that it's a legitimate good thing? If you liked the video, consider subscribing. It's by far the best way to support the channel, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye!